Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Troy Sutton, owner of Trojan Coaching, and in this video we're going to be speaking about how to solve muscle imbalances in your body finally. Now, muscle imbalances is completely normal, and let me tell you why. So normally, obviously, we have a dominant arm. So for an example, this is my dominant arm. I write with it, I do everything with it, okay? So with that being said, this is gonna be more stronger, more naturally than the other arm. Meaning in the gym, when we're doing unilateral movements like bicep curls, this arm is gonna be able to withstand a lot more pressure than this one. Meaning that the more I lift and the more volume that I push with, or even the more mind to muscle connection that I have with this arm, I find I'm able to contract my bicep and feel my bicep and understand how it works a lot more in my right arm than my left arm. So this is why my right arm is bigger than my left, although it probably doesn't look like it because they're huge either way. So that being said, whichever one that you're struggling with, whether it may be one dominant lat, one dominant quad, whatever it is completely normal. But I understand how frustrating it is, so let's try to get around it. Now, why does this normally happen? As I said, number one is probably going to be bad form. So when it comes into the gym and you're doing unilateral movements, let's just say you're doing one arm bicep curls. If you have bad form on one arm compared to the other, of course that's going to affect the overall growth compared to the other dominant arm. Another one could be mind to muscle connection, which I spoke about before, especially when I'm on preacher curls. When it comes to biceps, when I'm doing preacher curls, I can really feel the contraction and the burning sensation in my right arm, and I always wonder, why is that not on my left and why is that not the case? Well, I actually dive deep into finding the reason why, and I found that actually my right arm will pull a lot more of the weight than my left arm would because it can withstand more pressure and more weight overall. So that's why when you see, when it comes to deadlifting, somebody deadlifting a really large weight, they more so pull with their back, where you see a roundness of their spine, is because the rest of their body can't reinforce the amount of weight that they're pulling at, that they have to jeopardize their most dominant, strongest part of their body, which for most people would be the lower back. And that's what causes the curvature in the spine when you're doing deadlifts. Now, the overall diet that you're going to need to stay in when focusing on solving your muscle imbalances is of course going to be a calorie surplus. Now, what is a calorie surplus? It's going to be 200 to 300 calories above your actual metabolic rate. Now, you can find your metabolic rate by going to caloriecalculator.net, typing in all your little details like height, weight, and the amount that you exercise per week. And with that being said, using that amount of calories, you're going to be able to withstand the amount of pressure that you're putting in the gym because you've got the calories to reinforce the energy to go with that. Now, the reason I would recommend only 200 to 300 calories above your metabolic rate is because, of course, we don't want to deal with the overall fat growing stage of it, okay? Now, a lot of people will go into the hard gaining side of things. They'll go 1,000 calories above their metabolic rate, and they'll wonder why they're gaining 1 kilo to 2 kilo every single week, and ideally just getting fat. Now, with training, I'm gonna get you to start training unilaterally in as much way as possible. For an example, a preacher curl, you're now gonna do a unilateral preacher curl with one arm at a time, and then rotating onto the next. But most importantly, tracking volume, okay? Because if you don't track volume, you're pretty much screwed when it comes to fixing this issue. So many people walk into the gym, they do as much reps as possible, they'll do a random weight, they won't track it, they'll just focus on getting a pump. This can't be the case for you, okay? For an example, you're doing 25 kilos unilateral preacher curl. You're doing the right arm, you do 15 reps. What you need to do is do 16 reps on your left arm and do that for a continuously period of 8 to 12 weeks, and I guarantee you're gonna see some progress in your least dominant arm. And tracking volume and making sure that the side that we could use a bit more growth on is always increasing the volume and making sure that we're progressively overloading and doing more weight every single week. If you start to stunt and start to hit a plateau in terms of how much weight you can lift, be aware that you can always progressively overload by doing an extra rep or by just slowing down the mind to muscle connection and really focusing on the movement. Now, the overall rest and recovery for this muscle imbalance and fixing stage, okay, we're going to need to train, we could say, our dominant arm 2 to 3 times a week, and the same as our least dominant arm 2 to 3 times a week as well. You don't do an extra day, you only do extra volume. A lot of people try solve muscle imbalances by training the same muscle group every single day. For an example, they have a weaker arm or they have a weaker quad. They will train unilateral leg extensions every single day of the week, okay? Now, the process of muscle growing is going to be making sure that you can damage the muscle fibers within the gym and making sure you can grow them back at a bigger and stronger rate ever so slightly by rest, recovery, consuming your protein targets and all things necessary like that. Don't change your training routine, just make sure that you increase the volume on the weaker side. That being said, that's pretty much all I have for today in terms of fixing your muscle imbalances. Now, what I would recommend is watching this video next for you and also hitting a subscribe to the channel up here. That being said, I'll see you all in the next one.